Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be diving into the work of media scholar Douglas Kellner.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be good.
We have some excerpts from his book, Media Culture, Cultural Studies, Identity and Politics Between the Modern and the Postmodern.
Oh, great book.
And I think this deep dive will really help us to see through the spectacle of media and to really start decoding all these messages, whether it's in movies, advertisements, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Kellner's work really emphasizes this idea that even the stuff that we think of as just entertainment, like movies, is actually a battleground for different ideas.
Right, for competing ideologies.
Yeah.
It's not just passive entertainment. It's actively trying to shape how we see the world.
He dives into some great examples from the 1980s, the Reagan era, with films like Rambo, Top Gun, and Iron Eagle.
Oh, yeah, those are great examples.
And I think they're really useful for illustrating how media can be used to push a very specific agenda.
Right, those films with their, pumped up masculinity and militarism, they really push this, us versus them narrative. And which very much aligned with the conservative values of the time. Absolutely. Very simplified narrative. Easy for people to digest.
But then he contrasts those with films that kind of push back against that.
Exactly. A different perspective.
Like Platoon, which offers a much more gritty, realistic view.
Yeah. Much less glam.
On the Vietnam War.
Not a hero narrative.
Yeah, and then, of course, Spike Lee's work.
Oh, yes.
Like Do the Right Thing.
Right, yeah, that's a good one.
Which forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about race and identity.
Doesn't shy away from the complexities of race relations and social injustice.
But what I found fascinating was Kellner's observation that even films that seem totally harmless, like Poltergeist, can actually reveal deeper cultural anxieties.
Oh, absolutely. Poltergeist, you wouldn't think of that as this deep film, but...
Yeah, I mean, I love Poltergeist. Right. But it never occurred to me that it could be reflecting anxieties about class and family structure.
Oh, yeah, it totally does.
Yeah.
If you look at it from that lens.
So how do we start seeing those hidden messages?
Okay,
like how do we become these, aspiring media detectives?
Kellner calls it the multiperspectival approach. Okay.
Okay.
It's basically a way to analyze media that goes beyond the surface.
Okay.
You have to consider the production context, who made the film,
okay,
who funded it, what were their goals,
okay,
and then you dive into the text itself. What symbols, stories, characters, what are they conveying? And finally, you consider the audience reception. How did people react? What does that tell us about the broader culture?
It's not just about passively watching something. It's about...
Yeah, it's not just entertainment.
Actively thinking about it. Right. Yeah. Critically.
And it seems like this could apply to so much more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. News, advertising, social media.
Social media, yeah, totally.
It's really empowering to start thinking in this way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Another thing that really stood out to me was how Kellner analyzes the way that media can actually shape public opinion, especially during conflicts.
Right.
He uses the Gulf War as a case study.
The Gulf War was, kind of a watershed moment for thinking about how media and war intersect.
Yeah.
He really shows how all the media frenzy, the selective information, the emotional appeals, it all shaped public perception.
Right. And it kind of raises the question, how are wars being sold to the public?
Exactly, yeah.
Even now.
Are we getting the full picture?
Or is it just a carefully constructed narrative?
Yeah. Something to think about.
It really is.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
Kellner then dives into this whole idea of identity in the postmodern world.
Which,
to be honest, I always find a little mind-boggling.
It's a bit of a head spinner, yeah.
Yeah.
Very complex topic.
But his suggestion that identity is less fixed.
Right, much less fixed than it used to be, and is more fluid.
He uses Madonna as kind of like...
Yeah, that's a good example.
And a prime example of how identity can be so fluid.
She's constantly reinventing herself through her music and her image.
It's like she's a chameleon.
Exactly, always changing and adapting.
But it makes you wonder, is this constant reinvention really liberating, or is it just another way to fuel consumerism?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it genuine expression, or are we just buying into these prepackaged versions of rebellion?
He brings up another really interesting example from the 80s.
Yeah.
The MTV show Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah, Miami Vice.
Yeah.
So 80s, with the pastel suits, the fast cars.
And those pastel suits, the fast cars,
Yeah, all about style.
Yeah, it was all about style.
Exactly. And Kellner argues that that focus on style over substance was a perfect reflection of this shift towards a more fluid but maybe superficial sense of identity.
Yeah, it makes you think, how are reality TV and social media playing a similar role today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's even more amplified today.
Yeah, because we're bombarded with these images and lifestyles.
Constantly?
Yeah.
That are carefully curated.
They are.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're all just...
It's like we're all performing for an invisible audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a valid concern.
Okay, so Kellner makes this really interesting connection between cyberpunk fiction.
Yeah, like William Gibson's Neuromancer.
Oh, yeah, a classic.
Yeah. And the work of philosopher Jean Baudrillard.
Okay.
Now, this is where things start to get really interesting for me.
Okay.
Because both Gibson and Baudrillard seem to be wrestling with this idea that technology is blurring the lines between what's real and what's simulated.
Right, blurring the lines between reality and fantasy.
And it really, I don't know, it makes me rethink.
Makes you think.
My relationship with my phone, you know?
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It should.
But Baudrillard is definitely the more pessimistic of the two, right? He describes America as a desert of meaninglessness.
It's a bit provocative.
Yeah.
But it does make you think.
Yeah, it's a bit dark.
But there's some truth to it.
Yeah, I mean, is it all just a facade?
That's what he's asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole idea of the American dream.
Yeah,
this obsession with happiness and success.
Is it just a facade?
Yeah, but Kellner doesn't necessarily agree with...
He pushes back a bit.
Yeah.
Against Baudrillard's bleak outlook.
Right.
Yeah.
He acknowledges the dangers of this hyper-reality, but he still thinks there's room...
Yeah, I think so too.
...for resistance, for critical thinking.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for actually creating genuine meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
In a world that's...
In a world that's saturated with media.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not
all doomed.
All doomed to be these mindless consumers lost in a sea of simulations.
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
There's still hope.
That's a relief.
There is, yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to Kellner's final point about the future of media and democracy.
Okay.
He's really emphasizing the importance of media literacy.
Absolutely.
And actually actively shaping the future of technology. It's not just about decoding the messages.
Yeah.
It's about being...
It's about actually taking responsibility for the kind of media landscape we want to create.
So we're not just passive consumers.
We're not.
We're active citizens in this media landscape.
Exactly. We have to be.
Okay, so what would that look like?
He argues for a more democratic media landscape.
Okay.
One that's free from corporate control and censorship.
Yeah.
So that means fighting for open access to information and diverse viewpoints.
Yeah.
Imagine a media landscape that truly reflects a wide range of voices.
Yeah, instead of just the
powerful and wealthy.
The powerful or wealthy.
Yeah, so that's a vision worth fighting for.
It is, yeah.
And it seems like Kellner's work really gives us tools to start that fight.
Yeah, I think he equips us to be critical thinkers, savvy consumers.
Right.
Yeah, active participants.
And to demand something better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so Kellner offers some concrete strategies for analyzing media.
Right.
And he calls this multiperspectivalism.
Right.
Now it's about drawing on all these different theoretical traditions.
Different perspectives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To get a more well-rounded understanding.
Right, to get a fuller picture of the media that we consume.
It's not about relying on one grand theory to explain everything.
Yeah.
It's about having a diverse toolbox.
Right, a diverse toolbox.
Yeah.
So it's not about finding the one right answer.
Not at all.
Right.
It's about using the right tools for the job.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that requires us to be open to different viewpoints.
Yeah, to be willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Yeah, to constantly be learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a process.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It is, yeah. Absolutely. So Kellner takes us on this journey. Yes.
Of how media shapes identity, particularly in our postmodern world.
Yeah, that idea that identity is becoming
where identity
fluid, less fixed.
Is becoming more fluid, less fixed.
Yes.
He uses Madonna again.
Right.
Yeah, as an example.
As an example. And she's
a great example.
Yeah, she's constantly reinventing herself.
Absolutely.
Through her image and her style.
Yes.
But he asks, is this constant reinvention
right? Good question.
Liberating?
Yeah.
Or is it just
another form?
Another form of consumerism.
Consumerism, right?
Yeah. Are we expressing our individuality?
Are we really?
Or are we just buying into these prepackaged identities?
Yeah, it's something we all need to grapple with.
Yeah.
As we navigate our own identities.
He also uses Miami Vice again.
He does, yes, yeah.
To illustrate this shift toward a more image-driven culture.
Right, Miami Vice.
Yes.
With all those pastel suits.
Yeah.
The fast cars.
The fast cars.
The flashy visuals.
It was very much about the image.
All about the image.
Yeah.
That 80s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Which prioritizes style and image.
And we see that today even more amplified.
Yeah, we do.
With social media influencers.
Influencers, yeah.
Yeah.
Curating their image.
It's like we're all becoming actors in our own lives.
Absolutely we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Kellner goes on to talk about this idea of media culture.
Media culture, yeah.
And he defines it as this all-encompassing environment.
It's all around us.
Yeah.
Of information, entertainment.
Of information, entertainment, and advertising.
Advertising, yeah.
That shapes how we see the world.
It shapes our values, our beliefs.
And ourselves.
And even our sense of self.
So we're swimming in this sea of media.
We are constantly bombarded with messages and images.
But it's not just a passive reflection.
Right. It's actively shaping us.
Of this society.
It actively shapes our values.
It does, yeah.
Our beliefs.
Think about how advertising constantly bombards us with images of the ideal life.
Right, yeah, the perfect body.
The perfect body, the must-have products.
It's like they're selling us a lifestyle.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
And that can be especially influential on young people who are still forming their identities.
Who are trying to figure out who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He uses MTV in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
MTV as an example.
A big one.
Of how media can shape a generation's taste.
Yeah, their tastes, aspirations, their sense of self.
Their sense of self. And I mean, that influence has only grown stronger with the rise of social media.
Much stronger.
Algorithms, personalized feeds.
Algorithms, yeah.
Yeah, it's like media culture has become even more pervasive.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and even more individualized. And individualized,
creating these echo chambers.
Echo chambers, right?
Yeah.
Where we're only exposed to information.
Where we only see what we already agree with.
That reinforces our existing beliefs.
Yeah, yeah. And that raises some concerns about the future of democracy.
Serious concerns.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, how do we have meaningful conversations across differences if we're all living in these echo chambers?
Exactly. How do we hold those in power accountable if we're not all on the same page?
Kellner doesn't think that we're all doomed.
He doesn't think we're all doomed.
To be mindless consumers.
No.
Okay, phew. So how do we break free from these echo chambers?
Yeah, so he emphasizes looking beyond the surface.
Okay.
Okay, digging deeper into those underlying messages.
Yeah.
The ideologies that shape media culture.
Yeah.
So you got to ask those tough questions.
Yeah.
Like, who benefits from this message? What values are being promoted or challenged? How does this relate to broader social and political issues?
So it's like being a media detective.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, searching for clues.
Search for clues, absolutely.
Especially on the bigger picture. And that's a skill that's becoming more and more essential in today's world.
Okay, so Kellner then takes us into this deep dive into the world of film.
Okay.
And he analyzes how different genres can both reflect and shape our cultural values.
Yeah.
He argues that film is this really powerful storytelling medium.
It's so powerful.
That can both reinforce and challenge dominant ideologies.
Absolutely.
And he uses a range of examples.
Yeah, I'm sure.
From big budget action flicks like Rambo all the way to more nuanced independent films, right? More nuanced films.
Rambo is such a great example of how a film can promote a very specific worldview.
A very specific worldview, yeah.
It's all about hyper-masculinity.
Hyper-masculinity,
militarism.
This us versus them mentality.
Very black and white.
Yeah.
You know, good versus evil.
And as you said, those themes really resonated with the anxieties
at the time
and political agendas of the Reagan era.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very much so.
But he also points to films that offer more critical perspective.
A different viewpoint.
Yeah, like Platoon.
Platoon, yeah.
Which challenged the hero narratives of other Vietnam War films.
Gave a much more brutal look.
Right, a much more brutal, unflinching look at the realities of war.
Yeah, exposing the moral complexities.
Exposing the moral complexities. And psychological toll.
On a psychological toll of war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even within a single genre, there can be...
You can have such a wide range of...
A huge range of
perspectives.
And messages being conveyed.
Yeah.
So it's important to be a critical viewer.
Yeah.
To question the assumptions being made.
Yeah.
And to seek out diverse viewpoints.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then Kellner also highlights the work of Spike Lee.
Oh, yeah, Spike Lee.
Who uses film to explore complex issues.
Yeah, very complex issues.
Of race and identity.
Of race and identity in America.
Lee's films are known for their powerful storytelling.
Yeah.
Their unflinching social commentary.
Social commentary.
Yeah.
And their willingness.
To confront
uncomfortable truths
about race and inequality.
The thought-provoking.
Like Do the Right Thing is such a great example.
Do the Right Thing, yeah. It really forces us to confront.
Forcing us to confront.
Yeah.
Racism.
Prejudice,
the ongoing struggles.
The ongoing struggle for equality in this country.
Yeah. And Kellner praises Lee for his ability to bring these perspectives.
To bring those perspectives.
To mainstream audiences. Yeah.
Using the platform
of Hollywood.
To tell stories that are often overlooked.
That are often overlooked or marginalized.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great example.
And it's a great example.
Of how media can be used.
Of how media can be used to amplify these diverse voices. And to challenge dominant narratives. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Kellner also dives into the world of horror films.
And he argues that they can be surprisingly revealing of societal anxieties and fears. Yeah, I mean...
He uses Poltergeist as an example.
What's Poltergeist again?
To show how horror films can reflect these anxieties about class.
They tap into our deepest fears.
The traditional family and even technology.
Right. Yeah. The unsettling aspects of technology.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
How horror films can tap into our deepest fears.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about zombie films.
Yeah, like zombie films.
Reflecting anxieties about pandemics.
Yeah, or like haunted house films, tapping into...
Or the collapse of society.
Our fears of the unknown.
Haunted house films, yeah. Tapping into our fear of the unknown.
Yeah, or the past coming back to haunt us.
Or the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they give us a safe space.
Horror films give us a safe space to confront our fears.
To confront our fears. And explore them.
In
this symbolic way.
In a symbolic, fantastical way.
Yeah, yeah. And by analyzing those fears, as Kellner suggests,
you can get
a deeper
understanding of the culture that produced them.
Absolutely.
It's like holding a mirror up to society's subconscious. Revealing these anxieties and fears. We might not even be.
That we're not even
consciously aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Kellner points out that horror films...
That they can also be subversive.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Challenging traditional power structure. Questioning societal norms. Think about how often the monsters in these films represent those who are marginalized or oppressed. Yeah, yeah.
Or oppressed in society.
It's a powerful way.
It is, yeah. To critique social injustice.
Powerful way to critique social injustice.
Yeah.
To give a voice.
To
those who are often silenced.
Or ignored.
Right. It's a way to give them a platform.
So even these genres that seem purely entertainment-driven
like horror
can offer valuable insights into our cultural
insights into our culture.
Our values.
Our power dynamics.
Absolutely, yeah.
They can. Okay, so Kellner also explores how media culture shapes our understanding of gender. Particularly in this postmodern world.
Right.
Where these traditional notions masculinity and femininity
are being challenged. Yeah.
He uses Madonna.
Madonna again,
as an example.
She's a good example for this.
Of how someone can constantly push boundaries. She's constantly pushing boundaries.
Yeah, playing with gender roles.
And
challenging traditional ideas.
Challenging ideas about sexuality.
Yeah,
she really...
He's a master
of reinvention. Constantly evolving.
With image and persona.
Her image, her persona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Kellner asks, is this constant reinvention...
Right. Is it truly...
liberating?
Or is it just another way to sell products?
Yeah. Are we expressing ourselves authentically?
Right.
Or are we buying into these prepackaged versions of like rebellion or empowerment that are being marketed to us?
It's a crucial question.
Yeah.
We need to consider
that we all need to
navigate our own identities.
Yeah. And he brings up Miami Vice. Again,
he does
to kind of illustrate this shift toward a more
image-driven, surface-oriented culture.
Yeah, with all the pastel suits.
All those pastel suits, the fast cars.
Yeah, it was a flashy visuals.
Visual feast.
Just captured that
80s aesthetic.
Where style and image became
really prioritized. Style and image, perhaps at the expense of substance and depth.
And it's not hard to see.
Not at
parallels.
Yeah, tons of parallels.
In today's world.
I mean, think about influencers on social media.
How they present themselves.
Right, yeah.
They're so carefully curating
their image.
Yeah, their image and their lifestyle.
For their followers.
It's like we're all becoming actors in our own lives.
Almost like we're all performing for...
Constantly shaping and reshaping our identities.
For a public audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that ties into this idea of performance.
Right.
And constructed realities.
Which Kellner then connects to this idea of media culture.
This all-encompassing environment.
Yeah, this all-encompassing environment.
Information, entertainment.
Of information, entertainment, and advertising. That shapes how we view the world. And ourselves. So we're swimming in this sea of media. Constantly bombarded. With messages and images. That are influencing our thoughts, our feelings.
Our behaviors.
Yeah. And Kellner argues that media culture isn't just a passive reflection of society.
It actively shapes our values.
Our
beliefs.
Even
our sense of self.
Yeah,
think about how...
think about advertising constantly bombards us. With images of the ideal life.
The
perfect body. The must-have products.
Yeah, it's like
they're selling us a lifestyle. Yeah.
A prepackaged identity.
That we can buy into if we just...
That we can just buy.
Purchase the right things.
Yeah.
And that can be... especially influential.
Really influential.
On young people. Who are still in the process of forming.
Who are still trying to figure out...
their identities, figuring out who they are.
In the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he uses
MTV in the 80s.
In the 80s.
As an example of how media can shape...
a whole generation's... tastes, aspirations... even their sense of self. Yeah, MTV was this cultural phenomenon that combined music videos. Fashion, celebrity culture. Into this powerful force.
Yeah.
That influenced a whole generation.
And that influence has only grown.
Oh, yeah, it's grown exponentially.
With the rise of social media.
With social media, with algorithms. With personalized feeds.
That are constantly...
yeah, that are shaping
our perceptions and our desires.
Yeah, it's like media culture has become It's become
even more pervasive.
Even more pervasive.
And even more individualized.
And individualized. Yeah, it's like
creating these echo chambers.
We're all living in these.
And we're only exposed
personalized echo chambers.
To
information.
Yeah, we're only exposed
and perspectives that
to information and perspectives that reinforce
our existing beliefs.
Our existing beliefs, exactly.
And that raises some serious concerns.
Yeah.
About the future of democracy.
About the future of democracy. Yeah. If we're all living in these
how can we have
personalized echo chambers?
Meaningful conversations across differences.
How do we have meaningful conversations across differences?
How do we hold those in power accountable?
How do we hold those in power accountable?
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
But
Kellner doesn't think.
On a positive note,
we're all doomed to be mindless consumers.
Kellner doesn't believe we're all doomed
to
be mindless consumers.
There's hope.
He believes we can still be critical thinkers.
Okay.
Active citizens.
So there's hope for us.
Even agents of change within this media landscape.
Yeah. But how do we break free?
So there's hope for us yet.
From these echo chambers.
Absolutely.
How do we develop a more critical awareness?
So how do we break free from those echo chambers?
Of the media that we consume.
Yeah. He emphasizes the importance of looking beyond the surface.
Okay.
Of digging deeper into the underlying messages.
Yeah.
The ideologies that shape media culture.
Yeah.
So it's about asking those tough questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, who benefits from this message?
Right. Who benefits?
What values are being promoted or challenged?
What are the values?
How does this relate to broader social and political issues?
It's like being a media detective.
It is, yeah. It's like being a media detective, always searching for clues.
Always searching for clues.
Like connections.
And connections that can help us understand.
That can help us understand the bigger picture.
Bigger picture.
Yeah, and that's a skill.
Yeah.
That's becoming more and more essential.
Yeah.
In today's world.
Yeah.
As media evolves.
Yeah.
So must our
ability to understand.
To understand and engage with it critically.
Engage with it critically.
Exactly.
So media literacy is a lifelong learning process.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about
constantly expanding our knowledge.
Expanding our knowledge.
Yeah.
Our critical thinking skills.
Our critical thinking skills.
Awareness.
And our awareness of how media operates.
Of how media operates.
In the world.
In the world, yeah.
Yeah.
Consumers of media, yeah. And to use our voices to demand a media landscape that serves the public good and reflects the best of humanity.
It's been a really thought-provoking deep dive.
It has been, yeah. It really makes you think about the media we consume every day.
So much of Kellner's work is about empowering us to be critical thinkers.
It is, yeah. It's about giving us the tools to analyze media and to understand how it shapes our world.
And to recognize that we're not just passive recipients of media messages.
Right. We have the power to choose what we consume, how we engage with it, and even to create our own media.
And to demand better from our media system.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a responsibility to hold media producers accountable and to advocate for a media landscape that reflects our values and our aspirations for a better world.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring Kellner's ideas about media culture, ideology, identity politics, and the future of media.
Yeah, Kellner's work really challenges us to think deeply about the role of media in our lives and in our society.
And to recognize the profound impact it has on everything, from our personal identities to our political beliefs to our understanding of the world around us.
And ultimately, it's about recognizing that we have the power to shape the media landscape and to create a more just equitable and empowering media experience for ourselves and for generations to come.
So we encourage you to continue exploring these ideas, to be critical consumers of media, and to use your voice to demand a media system that serves the public good and reflects our shared humanity.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.